recording. All right. And so with that, Colleen, it's all yours.
Well, and just at that moment when you hit record, Pat, it it knocked me out of my PowerPoint. So hang on, bear with me. We've had some feature glitches during our practice. So thanks everybody. Appreciate you joining. As Pat said, I'm Colleen, and I do wear a lot of hats. So hopefully, the advantage of going through this live is that very often when people have taken the merit badge training that is available through My Desk Scouting, it's very informative, but there are nuances in the training that sometimes it's just helpful bouncing those questions off of somebody in a live environment. As we go through here, what we will have at the end is a number of different scenarios, myths, if you will, about different merit badge traditions and issues that come up, and we will go through those. But as we are going through this, I'm going to invite you all, if any of you have any questions at any time, please feel free to take yourself off of mute. As I'm presenting, I don't have visibility into the chat window. So if anybody has a question, I'm going to miss that piece. So feel free to voice that as we're going through. This initial slide that we're seeing here does showcase the Guide to Advancement. I will tell you that as a leader who's been involved in scouting for 20 years, the Guide to Advancement was probably something I only ever heard maybe 10 years into it. And it's something that if you're not already familiar with it, I would encourage you to take a look at it. The merit badge section specifically is in this, what is it, item 7. It has all sorts of information that is specific to the rules that govern the merit badge process. So as we're going through this today, we're going to be covering the overview of the scouting mission and where merit badges fall into that mission, what qualifications you're going to need as a merit badge counselor, the process to become a merit badge counselor, once you are a counselor, how you go about counseling, what qualifies as a merit badge requirements being met, effective ways of counseling, and the best practices as far as group instruction, both in merit badge clinics and in camp settings. So if you were to open the Guide to Advancement, what you would find on the inside cover is this mission statement. The mission of Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law. So that is the governing principle of everything that we do. Now, within the scouting program, we're working with youth to develop character, citizenship training, leadership skills, and mental and physical fitness. And all of the activities that we do within scouting supports those aims. So while we are not looking to create Olympic athletes, we are looking to create good habits and to help scouts along the journey to do that. So the same thing, everything that we're going to do is going to bolster those aims. Now, there's 8 methods to scouting. These should be familiar to anybody who's seasoned, but I know that some of the folks that are joining us, that this is a new adventure for you. So the methods of scouting are the scouting ideals and the patrol method. So that happens within the scouting unit. And advancement can take place within the unit. It can take place at summer camp. It can take place at merit badge clinics and what have you. And when you're going through that advancement process, the part that goes with the unit, you're working with the patrols, but the parts that goes along with advancement, that's with merit badges, you're broadening the circle there and involving merit badge counselors. Many times those are within your unit, but just as often they're in a larger circle of adults that your unit leader has connected the scouts with. So those activities are happening many times outdoors. We've created the program in a way that you're fostering leadership development. And what we're also doing is looking to enhance personal growth. Every kid's scouting journey is going to be a little bit different. And the whole program is built to work at their own pace so that everybody can do whatever things interest them and at the pace that works for them. So no two kids' scouting journeys is going to be identical. There are 4 steps in the Scout advancement. So the first step is the Scout learns something. Once they learn something, so let's say that they were taught a knot, then the Scout is tested. So they have to demonstrate to somebody how that knot is tied. And then they're reviewed. And so, oh yeah, I notice here that you did this exactly textbook. Yes, you have your taut line hitch, and that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And I see that you've learned that skill. So that has been reviewed, and then it's recognized, signed off on, or if it's part of a merit badge process, then that would be noted as part of the merit badge process. So as it says here, the merit badge counselors are directly involved in those first 2 steps. So they're encouraging, they're facilitating, they're mentoring to get them through those first 2 steps. And then we're hoping that the Scout takes the reins from there and is able to demonstrate or show that they have achieved whatever it is that you're trying to teach them. So merit badges and how those work within advancement. So you have your different rank advancements, and those are embedded within the merit, or excuse me, the handbook that the kids bring to their meetings every week. And those, you take them from Scout ideally to Eagle. Not every Scout wants that for themselves, but they will take them through those ranks, and all those ranks requirements are embedded in that Boy Scout handbook, or Scouts BSA handbook, pardon me. Anyway, as they advance through the ranks, some of the ranks start requiring certain merit badges along the way. So the deeper they get into it, once they pass first class, they're going to have to start demonstrating in that book that they have completed merit badges. Now, that merit badge journey can start at any time. So for the thing is that what is new in the last few years is that Scouts can earn first class, and then they have to start documenting that they've earned merit badges for a Star Life and Eagle rank. But once a Scout has earned at least first class, if they are part of the Sea Scout program or the venturing program, they can also earn merit badges within those 2 affiliated programs. So that is somewhat new. So anybody that's been around for a while, that might be new information to you, but just be aware that they cannot earn merit badges in venturing or Sea Scouts if they have not yet achieved that first class rank in a traditional scouting unit. So in order to earn Eagle, they need a total of 21 merit badges. Some of them are specific and some of them are elective. 14 of the 18 merit badges are specific to earn the rank of Eagle, okay? So within that, the merit badge world, they are categorized, those merit badges are categorized into 14 different subject areas, what you can see here. So you will see that, for instance, in communications, you have the communication merit badge, and you might have public speaking, and you might have any number of things that have to do with digital and what have you. But they're all clustered together in groupings that fall under these 14 categories. As far as the benefits that we hope that they would gain from these exposures to these merit badges, we're looking for contributions to the objectives of scouting. So those main things are citizenship, character, leadership, and fitness, as we talked about before. In going through this process, we're hoping that these scouts are gaining confidence. They learn from their experience that they are capable of doing these things that maybe they had never tried to do before, and they become more confident in that, more self-reliant. And because they're exposed to more adult interactions, they're asked to draw on communication skills by documenting their progress rather. And as they're working through a merit badge and they're writing down what it is that they are working on in order to be able to showcase that when they meet with their merit badge counselor, they're documenting all of those things in a way maybe they hadn't had an opportunity to do before. And then they meet with their merit badge counselor and then they have to verbalize those things. They're referring to their notes that they might have on their worksheet or their notebook, and they're interacting with an adult in a way that many of them haven't had an opportunity to do before they started undertaking these merit badges. In terms of physical fitness, we are promoting healthy lifestyles. So by doing any of the physical fitness merit badges, one of the things that you will see as a recurring theme is that they will ask you to have a baseline and track progress, or demonstrate that they're able to show improvement in the different things that they have chosen to do. So I think that one of the biggest things that I have seen from scouts is that the career and hobby choices have sprung up as a result of their exposure to the merit badge program. I know for my son, he took photography, and now that has become a passion of his, and he hadn't really been involved in that before his scouting journey. And then positive role models. So that's where you all come in. In order to become a merit badge counselor, you have to be at least 18 years of age. So you have to qualify there as an adult. You're going to have to be good character. We ask that you have some sort of subject matter expertise. So does that mean that you have to be able to build a house if you do a woodworking merit badge? No, but perhaps knowing which end of the tool is up, being able to demonstrate that you're able to coach somebody successfully within that environment of woodworking, and have knowledge of what goes into making somebody successful at that. So you don't have to necessarily be a master carpenter, but having some sort of knowledge is very helpful. Maybe it's something that you have as a hobby. And then to be a successful counselor, having a good rapport with kids, being able to interact with them and perhaps change your style, change your language, change your approach in order to accommodate an 11-year-old versus a 17-year-old. As far as special certifications and trainings, there are some merit badges that do require a little bit more. For instance, if you were going to do shotgun or rifle merit badge counseling, you would be asked to be an NRA certified instructor, and then if you were doing scuba diving, that if you were PADI certified, so being able to have that. If you were doing swimming merit badge, you don't need to be a lifeguard, but we do ask that you have taken the Safe Swim Defense, and gosh, there is another one that is escaping me at the moment. There's two that if you are going to have any sort of scouts in the water, you should be taking an online training class that tells you, what are the safe ways of going about doing this. When you go to register as a merit badge counselor, everybody needs to register and put in an application for that. Even if you're registered unit leader or committee member, or a Cub Scout leader, whatever it is, if you've already submitted an application, you've gone through the background check. But what you need to do in order to be a merit badge counselor is put together your application specifically to be considered a merit badge counselor. So that is required. If you've already registered, as I mentioned, you don't need to re-register. You can choose whether you want to be a merit badge counselor, if you just want to be a merit badge counselor and not be affiliated with a unit, you can register as a merit badge counselor. We have a lot of people who maybe their kids age out and no longer are affiliated with a particular unit, but want to stick around in scouting. You can fill in a merit badge counselor application and be affiliated just at a counselor district level. And then the approval of merit badge counselors is the responsibility of the Council Advancement Committee. So that goes through by district. Every district is represented by a district advancement chair. And at our monthly meetings, anybody that has submitted an application to be a merit badge counselor is reviewed at that time. And that's where we take a look at, the things that, I see here that somebody wants to be a scuba merit badge counselor, and did they provide their PADI certificate, and making sure that all of those things align so that we've got everybody properly vetted. This is the application to the left. That is what you would need to fill out if you want to be a merit badge counselor. The position code is 42. The right part of the screen is the application that we ask you to fill out that says, what merit badges do you want to be a counselor for? And you'll notice that there are 8 spots here. A little later on, we're going to touch on the fact that although national does not place a limit on how many merit badges you can be a counselor for, Pathway to Adventure Council limits you to 8 merit badges. So the reason being is that we really want the scouts to spread their wings and be exposed to as many adults as they can be, different learning styles, different teaching styles, sometimes add more opportunity for growth. So rather than having the scouts continually going back to an individual leader and say, that one is a merit badge counselor for all 21 of the merit badges I want to get in order to earn Eagle, that's shortchanging that Scouts experience. So in an effort to broaden those horizons, our council has limited it to 8. Everybody who is a merit badge counselor must have completed youth protection training. So you should plan on submitting your YPT certificate at the time you submit your application. And like I said, if you've already registered as a unit leader or another position of responsibility within your unit, a background check has already been performed. And this is just merely adding one additional layer onto that. But if you are submitting an application and you aren't affiliated with the unit, you will need to have the background check information completed. They do require the youth protection training, and any council require certifications. Yes.
Real quick question. Sorry. For youth protection, for those of us who've already done that, if we have that online, can we refer to that, or do we need to actually print out the form and send it in?
Most often people submit the applications in person, because that second application that requires you to put down what merit badges you want to counsel, and then there's just a little spot that says, what makes you qualified for this. Like and it doesn't have to be anything. If you're a gardening merit badge, I maintain my garden throughout the summer. If you're a family life merit badge, I'm part of a family. It doesn't have to be really expansive as far as your reasoning for it, unless it's something that is, that you want to share that's a little bit more complex. I want to do this because I have this ability. But because that part is paper, typically we see those merit badge applications turned in person. So the printout is helpful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned, there's also approval for the specific merit badges. In addition to the ones that I've mentioned for swimming and scuba diving and the range related sports, the other one that comes to mind is citizenship and society. Citizenship and society within our council, we ask that anybody that signs up for that go through the DEI training that is found on My Scouting. Actually, it's a really well done video. It takes about a half an hour, but we ask that you take the DEI training first and then you submit your application. And what we're trying to do is foster some of our best practices and rolling that out. It's a rather new merit badge. And as such, what we've done is really taken a look at the people that are coming on board for that and trying to mentor them along the way so that everybody is delivering a similar experience. Counselors can choose to work with just a single unit. So if you want to just work with your own unit, that's fine. But part of the registration process will ask you how many, excuse me, not how many, if you want to work with just a unit or if you're willing to work at a district or council level. So in terms of counseling, the idea is that the scout is first going to develop an interest in a particular merit badge, a particular subject. And once they have decided that they want to pursue that, they're going to discuss taking that badge with the unit leader. So this PowerPoint focuses very heavily on the blue card process. This is a national document that we're working from for our training. I will tell you that personally, as merit badge counselor, I probably haven't even seen or touched a hard merit badge blue card in 5 years. Most of the units that I work with use Scout Book. So just know that that this is very blue card heavy, and if you're using Scout Book, there's an alternate way of going about doing this. But the idea is that once the scout begins to express an interest in pursuing something, they should sit down and have a discussion with their unit leader, and that unit leader has to provide that scout with at least one contact, one merit badge counselor that they can connect with. Whether that's in the unit or outside the unit, they have to provide that information to the scout. And then it's up to the scout to decide whether or not they want to work with that particular merit badge counselor, or they're not obligated to. So let's say the merit badge counselor is provided by the unit leader, and then that scout decides to hold off taking it until summer camp, and he ends up working with somebody at summer camp. That's okay too. The idea is that, you know, they've expressed the interest to the unit leader. They've had a conversation about their intent to take it. Most often, the scout will meet at least a couple times with a merit badge counselor. Very often, the first meeting is to set the stage of this is what to expect. The next meeting could be to complete the merit badge. It's not unusual when I'm working with scouts on different merit badges that I meet with them 3 or 4 times, depending on how lengthy the task is, how the scout has segmented the tasks that they're undertaking, how frequently I cross paths with them. So it really, there is no requirement that says it has to be done in one meeting. It can be done, you know, and piecemealed out as many times as you need to get the job done. And then ideally, at the end of that process, all of the requirements are fulfilled. Now, when you're counseling a scout, the counselor approves the completion and signs the blue card. Or if you've been connected on Scout Book, you can sign off through Scout Book. The scout then is going to return the signed blue card to the unit leader for their signature if they have a physical blue card. That is sometimes, if they've gone to a merit badge event, maybe it's a piece of paper that represents a blue card. Black Pug, which is the program that our council uses for a lot of merit badge events, the scout would go after the event and pull that completed blue card off, or a partial, and bring it back to their unit. So just know that it doesn't have to be a physical blue card. Then the unit leader is going to give the scout the applicant record section. So it's a 3-part section. The scout's going to hang on to that. the section that they've been handed back. Meanwhile, on the unit side, they're going to record that that has been completed. And when they say the merit badge is presented, that's at your court of honor typically. That most units that I work with, it's at a court of honor. Some do an immediate recognition, but I don't know a lot of units that have a whole bunch of merit badges on hand, because typically you have to bring the merit badge record in to the council in order to be able to order a merit badge, in order to be able to award it. So typically that's done at a court of honor. So this is just looking at the same information that we just went through, kind of in a flow chart. They've indicated, the scouts indicated interest, meets with the unit leader who gives them the merit badge counselor's name. The scout contacts the counselor. And I should emphasize, it should be the scout contacting the counselor. It's okay for a parent to reach out ahead of time and say, hey, my scout's going to reach out to you. But I will tell you that that it is the scout's responsibility to make that contact. So the parent should then take a step back, have the scout copy them on any interactions, and then move forward from there. It's the scout's journey to drive. So I wouldn't shortchange them by having a parent or a unit leader step in and take that away. The scout should own that part of the process. Then the counselor and the scout meet, and then if necessary, subsequent meetings. Once the requirements are completed, the counselor is approving that, whether that's through scout book or on the blue card. The scout is returning that completed blue card back to the unit, or if it's in scout book, the unit's already going to know it's completed. They will get a notification, and then the unit reports that advancement, and they can then purchase the merit badge and award it to the scout. I would encourage scouts to keep any records that they have along the way, just to make sure that they have a backup of any interactions they have. As much as I love Scout Book, I very much am a paper person. And I have seen scouts lose records, and I have seen things get fouled up in Scout Book. So I would always make sure that you keep a backup of anything. Here we have a picture of a blue card for those of you who have never seen one, because like I said, there are not very many of them out there these days, but there is a section on the merit badge application form that in this big blue box, it says, I've discussed this merit badge with a scout and recommended at least one merit badge counselor. Notice that this does not say I've given permission. Permission is not required. The discussion is required. So this is where that is documented. It is a 3-segmented piece of cardboard, and the Scouts information goes on the application for merit badge piece on the far right. In the center, which has the orientation that is, opposite of how I'm letting you view it, is where the counselor would indicate what requirements they worked on with the scout, and then their signatures and the dates as to when those were completed. And then the left-hand side is the applicant record, with the scout would retain. On the flip side of this, there's more information. So the applicant record on the far left-hand side, that's what merit badge the scout was working on, what counselor they were working on, and any information that they have for that counselor. The center part, again, is the applicant's record, and the right-hand side is the counselor's record. So the counselor retains that. When I've worked with scouts, I've retained that until I know that they've turned 18. That way, if somebody ever came to me and said, my records are missing, I am able to provide those. And I will tell you that with one of my kids, when he was ready to start working, he was at Life and starting to work on his Eagle project. He had well over 60 merit badges. And when he went into the council office and had his record pulled of what he had completed, the person that had been keeping the records hadn't been doing a very thorough job of it. And they had indicated that he was at Tenderfoot and only had like 12 merit badges to his name. So thankfully he had kept meticulous records and was able to rebuild all of that. But that's one of those instances where it really made good sense to hang on to that. So the role of the merit badge counselor is to work with that scout. It says interview the scout, but it's really a conversation, right? You're sitting down with the scout, you're establishing a baseline. You know, where are you at right now? What do you know how to do related to this subject that we are going to be doing a deep dive into, so that you know where they're at. Maybe why they picked this, why did this interest you, why are we doing this right now, and then establish a plan. And then in their subsequent meetings, you're going to be checking in and seeing how they're working towards completing that plan, and review what work they've already done. Sometimes that's smooth sailing. Sometimes you sit down and you knock off those requirements. Sometimes after that meeting and you've done your review, you have to course correct because that maybe they didn't quite understand what their task was, and they didn't do it according to the letter of the merit badge. And it's important. It has to follow exactly what the merit badge requirements state. So as a merit badge counselor, sometimes you're coaching them. Sometimes you are teaching the required skills. Sometimes the scholars come to you and they've already accomplished certain things, and they're just coming back to you to explain what they've done and maybe show you how they've done it. But many times you are actually the one teaching them, and you're a safe spot for them to practice in, and you can guide them along the way and give them input as to how to get to the mastery of whatever it is they need to do in order to accomplish that. You're going to be their cheerleader. You're going to be making sure that they feel good about the process. Remember, this is supposed to be fun. Number one thing in scouting, if they aren't having fun, it's not being done right. So you want to make sure that they're enjoying this process. You're encouraging them and helping them along the way. And then you're the sounding board. You're giving them the feedback, and you're responding to them and letting them know, okay, this is great. I think you need to do a little bit more of this and a little less of that. But you're with them side by side as part of this journey. Now, another thing that we're doing is mentoring them. So very often, you're working side by side with these scouts, and you're learning about them, they're learning about you, you're building a relationship. And hopefully if you are a subject matter expert, and that's what we really want in merit badge counselors, one of the reasons that we limit it to 8 is pick the things that you're truly passionate about. If you teach something to a scout that is meaningful to you, that is something that you think is so cool, then that energy that you bring to the table is something that they absorb. That's something you're going to light a fire, and they're going to say, well, I never knew that basket weaving could be this fun. And maybe that will be something that they decide to take with them and build on as their personal interest and hobby as they grow. But the fact that you're so impassioned about it is something that you can share with these scouts. So, anyway, it also gives you an opportunity along the way. You're having these conversations. You can help guide them along the process. Okay, you've done a great job with this. What's next? What's your next interest, lie, and how can I help you achieve that? So it's not unusual for me to finish a merit badge with somebody and then say, oh, what is it that that's, oh, who does a great job with that, and perhaps, go back to the unit leader and say, I think this unit leader, hey, I think this person, this merit badge counselor would be a good fit for this scout. So we do that a lot. The current requirements for the merit badge, you want to make sure that you're working on whatever the current badge is. If you go on to the Scouts BSA webpage, the scout.org, and you look up a particular merit badge, you're going to see that there's different iterations of merit badges for some of them. if you're working with a scout that has already started a merit badge, you want to make sure that you sync up with that scout to make sure that you are working on the same requirements that they started on. That they started, unless otherwise stated in the merit badge books, you should be able to finish under the same requirements they started on. But if you've got a brand new scout that's starting on a merit badge, you want to make sure you're using the current ones, because that's the one that they're going to be following along with. So one of the questions we frequently get are the requirements on merit badges flexible? Absolutely not. They are as written, no more, no less. So if the merit badge says show, they have to show. If it says demonstrate, they have to demonstrate, and so on. So they are to be taken literally as it says. However, there are different ways to show. You could show somebody that you did something by having somebody take a video of you doing it, and then show it to the merit badge counselor. Here, I'm showing this to you. I've done this. So while it's inflexible in terms of whether or not you have to fulfill them as written, the words themselves sometimes allow us a little bit of interpretation that we can take, creative interpretation. So another question we frequently get is, can merit badge requirement fulfill more than one requirement at a time? So for 2 different merit badges, 3 different merit badges, very often they can't. The caveats with that being that the requirements have to match and have the same intent. It doesn't specifically say within the body of the merit badge that you can't double dip. So sometimes it might say, let's say you're doing a hike and there's something similar to it that is part of a rank advancement within the handbook. Sometimes it will call that out and say you can't use that hike for this thing over here. If the scout remembers the safety content. So if you're doing something, let's say you're working with a scout that earned 1 merit badge at the age of 11, and then at 17, they want to earn something that had some overlap. Well, that's quite a gap. So you'd be best served making sure that the scout understands everything safety related regarding that content. And then anyway, that's ultimately up to the merit badge counselor, but just if you read the requirements on both of them and they seem to align, that's unless it calls it out, you should be able to do that. Okay, this one they want me to, this is big and bold. No council, committee, district, unit, or individual has the authority to add to or subtract from advancement requirements. There are limited exceptions relating only to youth members with disabilities. For details, see Section 10, advancement for members with special needs. So you can't add to or subtract from anything. You can be very liberal in your interpretation. For instance, if I had a scout with special needs who was going on a hike, and that scout was in a wheelchair, that is their normal mode of transportation. For that scout to take a hike, they would do it in their wheelchair. So they aren't physically taking steps. However, that is their mode of transportation, so it's allowed. The prep that scout needs to take for a hike like that is going to look a little bit different than a scout who is able-bodied, but it doesn't mean that they aren't taking the same precautions and taking things into consideration. For instance, if that scout had a motorized wheelchair and they were taking a 10-mile hike, they would maybe need to double check to see if the battery on their wheelchair could accommodate that. If it doesn't, if it with the terrain they're taking, maybe it won't. Well, then what do they need to do to prepare for that hike? So those measures are all factored in. But next month, for any of you who are interested, we are doing a webinar on advancement for scouts with special needs. And we will take a deeper dive into how those interpretations can come into play. So as I mentioned, we can't change any of the merit badge requirements. Scouts with disabilities are classified, so you can register a scout for registration beyond the age of eligibility, meaning that a scout with special needs can be categorized as a youth beyond the age of 18 if that scout's disability is either permanent or expected to last more than 2 years. Now, the thing is, a scout with a registration classification that allows them to maintain their youth status beyond the age of 18 would perpetually be considered a youth. Once they qualify and are designated with that eligibility status, they will always be considered a youth in the eyes of scouting. There is a website here that talks about alternative scout rank badges. So for instance, if I had a scout who was unable to do the swimming merit badge, and they've tried that, this is just not something that they're ever going to be able to achieve. There are alternate merit badges. Like I said, we can't change the merit badge requirements, but what we can do is substitute for those special needs scouts alternate merit badges that fulfill the spirit of what those are trying to accomplish. So going back to that slide where we had 14 different categories of merit badges, we would look at something within the same category as swimming and say, oh, that's a physical fitness merit badge. So if this scout can't swim, what types of merit badges within this category might we be able to substitute? There's an application process for that. There's a review process for that. There's paperwork involved, and we have a team of people on our volunteer staff that are knowledgeable and able to help any unit that has that for a scout that they're trying to navigate that. In terms of tips for counseling, some of the best practices is, be friendly. Try to make that scout feel comfortable. It's interesting. If I were putting this PowerPoint together, the first thing I would do is that last item. Remember, this is scouting, have fun. First and foremost, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So keep that in the forefront of your head as you're trying to make the scout feel comfortable. Meet them where they're at. Give them the ability to empower them so that they're again driving this journey. They're not just sitting there listening to you. They are side by side in this journey with you. And hopefully when you're finished with that journey with this particular scout, they take away something that they can bring forward to some other aspect of their life. Much the same way as in patrol, we are using an EDGE method. As counselors, we are also encouraged to use the EDGE method. So we're explaining, demonstrating, guiding, and ultimately enabling. So if we've done it right, we've given them the power to do this, and they can do it on their own. In terms of group instruction, whether you're doing this at a unit level or a district council level, if summer camp, when you're doing group instruction, you can't bring in guest experts. You are the merit badge counselor. Ultimately, you are responsible for the content, but you can bring in other people that are really cool at doing whatever it is that you're trying to instruct them on. Bring in guest speakers. They don't sign off on the merit badge card. You do, but you can utilize them to change things up a little bit. Make sure that the learning is interactive. You don't want to be talking at somebody. You want to make sure that you are sharing with them and getting their experiences, so that it's you're facilitating, right? So that it's more interactive. In terms of that creativity, you can do all sorts of different creative things: slideshows, skits, demonstrations, hands-on. The more that you can engage them, the better they're going to learn it. And then one of the things with group learning, one of the challenges is that every scout has to participate. So it shouldn't be a kettle call. You shouldn't have everybody in the unit attending a merit badge class that is a unit meeting, and they watch you give a presentation and then everybody gets everything signed off on. That's not the intent. Every scout has to participate. If it says show, every scout has to show. If it says explain, every scout has to explain. And writing it down on the workbook or doing notes and handing them in is not explaining, right? It's not going to be a one and done sort of thing. So you just want to make sure that, you know, it's no more, no less. When you're doing group instruction, quality over quantity is what we're looking for. So, for instance, what a number of us have been working on the Citizenship and Society Merit Badge, and you know, we've gotten feedback with different size groups. You know, we've had some success in doing groups of maybe 8, but I think where we landed with this is many of us who have done this feel like 6 is a really good number. Not so small that the conversation is not flowing, and not so large that everybody doesn't feel like they have a chance to contribute. So the same thing goes with any kind of merit badge instruction. You want to make sure that you're sizing your groups appropriately so that everybody can contribute. Okay. If you're doing large group instruction, you want to make sure that all the counselors are registered and approved for the merit badge that they're counseling. If you're going to have them signing off, it's not enough that they're a merit badge counselor if they're not a merit badge counselor for the topic that they're counseling. Then when you're establishing what the prerequisites are, sometimes in a group instruction, you only have a period of time to meet with scouts, and that's okay to meet with somebody once and get merit badges completed if you have set up what your prerequisites are. And if you're having prerequisites, you know, what are they? How are they going to be communicated to the merit badge counselor? How do we know that we're all signed off? For instance, we've got a merit badge event coming up where we're doing a number of citizenship merit badges. Well, for the amount of time that we're going to be with the scouts, we won't have the ability to cover everything, but there are a number of requirements for some of the citizenship merit badges that do require a scout to research something. Well, that doesn't work well in a group environment anyway. So those scouts are being instructed, here are the things that we want you to research in advance. This is how you're going to communicate with the merit badge counselor and convey to them your understanding of this topic and be able to show what you know. And that is all detailed in the registration process. So when a scout signs up for that class, they know what the expectations are. They also know right up front that if you haven't done the prerequisites, you are welcome to come to this, but you're walking away with a partial merit badge and you can complete it at a later time. If you were ever to witness that a merit badge is not being done appropriately for whatever reason, that is something that you should report to the Council Advancement Committee. Those are things that we take very seriously. And sometimes when that's happening, mostly it's a misunderstanding of somebody not really understanding what that merit badge process is about, thinking that they were following the rules appropriately, but maybe they weren't. So that's a coaching opportunity for the Advancement Committee to go back to the merit badge counselor and say, well, you know, are you aware? And most often they aren't. And like I said, it's a learning opportunity. In camp settings, they also have to have merit badge counselor qualifications. Staff members are typically the ones that are delivering those merit badges. So those staff members under the age of 18, which is many of them, work with qualified counselors. So if your kiddo was going to camp and you noticed that when you got the merit badge back at the end of the summer and you looked at the merit badge card, you would find that the counselor that signed off on it wasn't the one that was doing the instruction if that you if it was a youth that was doing the instruction for that merit badge, and that's perfectly acceptable. Okay, they just need to make sure that they're following the guide to advancement in terms of how that is laid out and delivered. For merit badge events, so one of the things that's not on here, I want to make sure that everybody hears this. Merit badge events within our council, anytime anybody's planning that, we ask that they run it by the Council Advancement Committee, not for an approval or approve, disapprove kind of practice, but we do ask that anytime a merit badge event is run, we have the opportunity to meet with the coordinators so that we are applying our best practices to any of those merit badge events. Are we all, doing the same thing and following the same processes and vetting our counselors in the way that they should be vetted? And that's just to make sure that we are uniform and doing the best that we can to support the youth towards this end. So they may have a number of different merit badges offered at an event. Sometimes the scouts can finish the merit badges at a single event. If that is the case, very often there are prerequisites. With the merit badge event that we're planning right now, we have over 30 merit badges, more than 30 counselors, and not a single one of those is being able to come in and sit down and walk away with merit badge. Every single merit badge has a prerequisite or a number of prerequisites. So, just be aware that if you're attending an event, you should look to see what those are. If you're staffing an event, you should take a look at what those requirements are and make sure that with the time allotted that you can fulfill everything, or make it very clear that the scout's going to have a partial and they'll have to complete it later. Each scout, again, I know we're saying this a lot, but it's really important. They must personally fulfill every requirement. Group discussion doesn't fulfill a requirement. For instance, if I'm coaching a group, I will have all of the scouts' names, and as we're covering something, I'll be marking off whether or not a scout has contributed. And then as things start to dwindle, you're always going to have somebody that's a little bit more shy. And then, you can turn to them and ask them, what would you like to add to this? And, encourage them and draw them into the group. Sometimes, somebody that starts out a merit badge instruction quietly ends up being the person that drives it towards the end if you've given them an opportunity to voice whatever their contribution is. If you're hosting a merit badge event, only minimal fees should be charged for those. We're not allowed to do them as fundraisers, so it's not supposed to be a cash cow by any stretch of the imagination. Any non-scouting organizations or businesses aren't allowed to use the BSA trade names. I know that anything to do with BSA, national, all of that. There was a number of years ago, I can remember that there were some issues with an organization that was doing a number of merit badges, but they had no registered merit badge counselors. They were on their webpage advertising things as merit badge events. And they were covering a lot of the things that we would cover, but there was nothing that affiliated them with scouting. So, how valid those merit badge cards were at the end. We're never going to fault a scout for having bad information from an adult, but we should be on the lookout for those types of things. If a non-scouting organization does want to do that, they have to have local council approval to present classes that are solely for the purpose of earning merit badges. So we should do it in collaboration, and we have done that. We've done it successfully with a number of different organizations. It's just we want to make sure that they're properly vetted. In terms of worksheets and learning aids, very often I have seen people require worksheets. Worksheets cannot be required. You can pull them off the web, and they're a great tool in terms of organizing information for a scout to be able to track what they've done and make sure that they have touched on every point of a particular merit badge. And if they want to use it, that's great. If a counselor wants to direct them towards it and say, I find this helpful, that's great too. But if they want to take a piece of paper and write everything down, that's fine. There's nothing to say that they can't. Let's see, worksheets may be used to meet in writing requirements. So like if you have to write up a report or something like that, that fulfills that if you're writing it down. But they don't substitute for telling, showing, or demonstrating. So if it's saying telling, that's, you know, a different thing than writing something down. And as I mentioned, not required to use them. Back to the blue card, if you're physically using blue cards, merit badge counselor records will indicate with a signature and a date what requirements have been completed. The back of the card is not signed until all of the requirements are met. It's not signed by the counselor, I should say, because there are different spots, but the counselor section should not be signed off on until that scout has completed every one of the requirements. If all of the requirements have not been met, that card is considered a partial, and they don't expire until that scout hits 18, or in the case of a scout that has registered beyond the age of eligibility, a special needs scout, they never expire for those kiddos. And if a scout were to come to you with a partial, they started a merit badge at camp, for instance, and did not complete it. When that scout comes to you with that partial, as a merit badge counselor, you can take whatever requirements are already completed and take it on face value that the scout has this signed off on, and a scout is honest, and therefore pick it up at that point and continue on and complete requirements. Or at the merit badge counselor's discretion, you could pick and choose. You can eliminate all of them and say, we're starting from scratch, I want to see where you're at. Or say, I will accept some of these and not these others, you know, based on your interaction with the scout. You might have a reason for doing that, but just know that it's within your right to not accept anything that a previous counselor has done. Once it's earned, it's earned. We hear this a lot with merit badge counselors. I'm going to read this off because it's really important. This is straight from the Guide to Advancement. Scout who has earned a merit badge from a registered and approved counselor by actually and personal fulfilling the requirements as written will have met the purpose of the merit badge program and the contributions to the objectives of scouting. The badge is theirs to keep and count. So once it's earned, a unit can't take it back. They can't say, well, they were too easy on you at summer camp. But if you had a counselor that signed off on all of those things or scout at summer camp, and then that brings it back to the unit, and the unit objects to that merit badge has been earned. Now, does that mean that you're without options? No. If it has been earned and it's clear, so I'm going to read this again, word for word. A scout to whom it has been made clear that only registered and approved counselors are to be used chooses to ignore this mandated procedure. That's problem number one. So if you have a scout who is getting things signed off on from somebody that's not a registered merit badge counselor, and this has already been made, it was an issue, you accepted it once, second time, you're like, this isn't a merit badge counselor. Now you have a process that you can go through in order to review that and determine whether or not that is truly going to be accepted as earned. The other thing is if it's evident that it was not possible for a scout to actually and personally fulfill requirements as written, in this case, a limited recourse is available according to the details outlined. And so this is section 7 of the Guide to Advancement. If you go to 7.0.4.7, it's going to lay out for you what recourse is available to you. So those are incredibly rare. If everybody's following the process the way it's intended to be delivered, ideally, we should never get to this point, but just know that, open communication with your scouts, making sure they understand where they should be going to get merit badge support. And you as a counselor, knowing where your boundaries lie. Ideally, we should never get to this point, but just know that if it ever were to occur, consult the Guide to Advancement, and there is a process in there. At what age or ranks may scout? Oh, this is the myths part I was telling you about. Now, the way they have this structured is that we have all of these questions, and then there's a few slides at the end that come up with the answers. So we're going to go through these, and if anybody has any questions about these along the way, these are the things that routinely come up. At what ages or ranks may a scout work on merit badges? And there is no restriction on this. Once a scout crosses over into Scouts BSA, they can start working on merit badges right away. Now, one of the things that we routinely hear is like, does anything that they did when they were Cub Scouts, they were in scouting. Well, they were in a scout program, but they weren't in a Scout BSA program. So let's say a Weeblo visited a national monument when they were in 4th grade. And now wants to use it towards a requirement for citizenship in the nation. Does that count? No, it does not. They can start working on that citizenship in the nation merit badge right away, the day they cross over. But anything that they did prior to that crossover date does not count towards that merit badge. What's the maximum number of merit badges a scout may work on at the same time? They can work on as many merit badges as they choose to. Whatever their interests lie, they can start working on those right away. Now, working on it is different than meeting with a counselor. Let's just be clear on that aspect of it. Working on it, they can start, putting together a collection for their collection's merit badge. So forming a collection isn't meeting with merit badge counselor. Remember, they have to have a conversation with their unit leader before that process starts, but they can start working on fulfilling requirements along the way. Is a scout allowed to begin work on a merit badge counselor without their unit's leader's approval? They can work on the requirements, but they cannot meet, or they should not meet with a merit badge counselor without the unit leader's discussion. So when they formalize their intent to sit down with a merit badge counselor, that's when that conversation should be happening with the unit leader. Does it ever happen that a scout registers for a merit badge clinic without talking to a unit leader? It happens. We even say right on our registration page, one of the things that I know I do, I run some merit badge events, and one of the things that I make sure that we caveat is that it's up to the scout to have that conversation. If a scout shows up to our merit badge clinic, not having had that conversation with their unit leader, we have no way of checking that. We have no way of knowing that. So if that scout returns to the unit and that conversation didn't take place, that's a conversation between the scout and the unit leader. If a scout has too many unfinished merit badges, may the unit leader limit how many others they may begin. No, that is not, that's not something that we would look to restrict either. That's if a scout has many different interests, it might be worth having a conversation with the scout and saying, I think you're getting a little distracted and you're doing a bunch of these and never quite getting to the finish line on any of them. That's a good moment to sit down and make sure that you understand what those scouts' goals are for themselves and that they're on track to achieve those goals. But there's nothing nationally that says that they have to limit those. Is it appropriate for a scout to tell a scout that they must earn all or most of the Eagle required badges before they earn any others? Again, no. This is supposed to be piquing their interest in a lot of different things, and the scouts should be pursuing where their interests lie. And ideally along the way, some of those will be Eagle required merit badges. As they age and mature, they're going to hone their goals. And if Eagle is a path that they want to take, then they're going to start taking more Eagle required merit badges. Again, those are conversations. You shouldn't be standing behind a scout and shoving them towards the Eagle finish line. Is the Scoutmaster permitted to serve as a troop merit badge counselor for some merit badges like camping and hiking? Sure, the Scoutmaster can In our council, be a merit badge counselor for up to 8 merit badges. Does that mean that they can sign off on every other merit badge because they're Scoutmaster? No, they can sign off on the merit badges they are a counselor for. What is the maximum number of badges a youth may earn from one counselor? National does not limit this, however, units can. It is entirely up to the unit how many merit badges somebody can earn from a particular unit. Now, I'll tell you that some units like to have every one of the Eagle required merit badges covered amongst leadership within their unit. And that's okay to guide your kids towards different people that you know personally. That's okay. However, I would caution you not to be always putting them to the same 3 people to get to the 14 Eagle required merit badges that scout needs to earn. Remember that this journey is one that allows them to broaden their horizons, push at their comfort zones, and experience different teaching styles and you know, help them expand their interests. And doing that beyond your unit is very often a way that can foster that. So there's no wrong way to do it, but just know that if you limit how many from a particular counselor, sometimes that can force a scout that is too deeply in their comfort zone to expand so that they can meet new people and expand stretch those muscles. How many badges may one counselor be approved to counsel? Again, National doesn't put a limit on it, but the Pathway to Adventure Council has 8. May you counsel your own child. There is no restriction that says you can't counsel your own child. However, we would encourage you not to, unless you were doing group instruction. So let's say that you're a communication merit badge counselor and you're doing a group of, you've got a group of life scouts that need to earn it within your unit. And one of them happens to be your child. Do you exclude your child from that opportunity? You don't need to. You just, I would never counsel my child one-on-one if another merit badge counselor was available that did the same merit badge, just to make it, well, for one thing, it's not broadening their horizons if they're interacting with you. Chances are they've met you before. They sit across the dinner table from you. They're in their comfort zone. We want them to push their comfort zone. So as much as possible, I would avoid that. May you counsel in other units, district, or councils? You can counsel on the form where you fill out your interest in what merit badges you want to counsel for. It will ask you whether or not you want to be only a counselor for your own unit or if you're willing to do anything within the council. So if you put in an application, that application for Pathway to Adventure Council will allow you to counsel within your unit and any of the other districts that make up Pathway to Adventure Council. If you want to counsel in another council, you have to fill out an application in their council, and you know, they will put you through whatever paces they have there, and then approve you through their process. Due to tight schedules, is a camp staff member allowed to make minor adjustments so requirements can be finished at camp? No. They have to fulfill their requirements, no more and no less. So if it says that a specific requirement requires A, B, and C, they must do A, B, and C. They can't just say we're running out of time, so we're only doing A and B, and I know that you're going to finish it at home. That's not okay. They have to finish the entire merit badge. Once you're registered and approved as a counselor, at what point must you re-register and become reapproved? We have a process in this council. You should make sure that when you put in your application as merit badge counselor, you put in a good email. You will be contacted periodically and ask if you want to continue in that role. So if you don't respond, then we try to track you down but that could end up being a full-time job for us. So we do ask that you keep your eye on your email and submit those applications, or submit the re-registration. It doesn't require a new application every time. It will be an email saying, do you want to continue in this role? So we've covered before, when does the partial expire? At the 18th birthday, or if you have a scout registered beyond the age of eligibility, they never expire for those special needs scouts. And these are all of the answers, which we've already talked through all of these. So share the passion. We're gonna, as counselors, we're going to share what skills that we've learned, and we are going to hopefully enhance the lives of the scouts that we work with. Now, I would encourage you, if you haven't visited the Guide to Advancement before, I would take a look through it. Again, section 7 is the one that is specific to merit badge counselors, and the merit badge counseling program is related to advancement. And it's a quick read, but it does give some good information in there as to the do's and the don'ts, and where your wiggle room lies when there is wiggle room. At this point, I'd like to invite anybody, if you have a question, something that I haven't addressed, or you need further clarification on, feel free to take yourself off of mute. We have quite a few people, I think, from our Council Advancement Committee that have joined us, and you might get some more voices chiming in here. Any questions? Oops. All right, folks, that is all I have for you this evening. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate that we ran a little bit over. So I'm glad you were able to stick with me. I could ask that you spread the word that next month we are doing advancement for scouts with special needs. Hopefully you can send some folks our way. And in the meantime, if you have any questions for us, you can feel free to reach out to the Council Advancement Committee at any time. Each of your districts has a district advancement chair, who should be somebody that you should find that on the PTAC page, and be able to reach them and get any of your questions answered.
Thank you, Colleen. All right, so with that, let me go about, if there's no question, I'll turn off the recording. And, but we'll still, if anybody's got any questions, please go ahead and either type it in the chat or turn off your mute and ask away.